Hello, listeners. It's Clancy Overall here. I've had to come into the studio over the weekend to record a new intro to this week's podcast because a lot has changed in the world since we recorded our interview on last Thursday. This week's podcast is a bittersweet interview with one of the most promising talents in the NRL, Latrell Mitchell, the Taree Ferrari. At 23 years and 2 months old, this South Sydney Rabbitohs superstar has achieved more in rugby league than most players do in a lifetime. 2 back-to-back premierships with his old club, the Sydney Roosters, and 2 back-to-back Origin series in those same years. He's won a cabinet full of Dally M awards and worn both the Kangaroos jersey and the Indigenous All-Stars jersey on multiple occasions. Now, 2020 marked an exciting pivot in the story of Latrell Mitchell. After moving to the Bunnies to be coached under Wayne Bennett in his preferred position of fullback, the crowds were treated to a very different style of play from Latrell, and he was improving each week alongside one of the most solid spines in the NRL this season. Disappointingly, but as can be expected, Latrell was met with a Fox Sports and Channel 9 media storm as the journos tried their best to break him. The same kind of clickbait and hysterical commentary that we all saw with Adam Goodes and Greg Inglis before him when the Black Poppies grew too tall. However, Latrell Mitchell was able to shake off the grubby undertones in the reporting of Paul Kent and Stefanovic and began to lift as the Bunnies made their finals dash. Now, at the time of this interview, Latrell had just finished shutting up the Rednecks again with a 56-16 win over the Manly Sea Eagles. So the positivity and optimism in this interview is obviously indicative of the headspace Latrell was in before round 16. On Thursday night, he was taken from the field with a hamstring tendon rupture during South Sydney's 38-0 shellacking of Parramatta. Now, that injury has ruled him out for the rest of the season. That's not the last we'll see of Latrell Mitchell. He'll be back in 2021. He can now escape the COVID bubble and spend time with his family. We can be sure that Wayne Bennett's Rabbitohs won't die with the music still in them. But this is the man we interviewed last week, Latrell Mitchell, South Sydney Rabbitohs fullback.
You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate on Desert Rock FM.
Welcome back to the Batuta Advocate radio show, recording live here in downtown Batuta in the Budgie Smugglers studio in the Old City District. You're joined, of course, by myself, Clancy Overall, editor of the Batuta Advocate, and Errol Parker, editor-at-large. Today's guest is one of the biggest names in Australian sport, certainly one of the biggest names in rugby league this season and for the last couple. Yeah, another very special COVID guest. We've been managing to bring in the big names during COVID because everyone seems to be at home when they're in their downtime. Thank you for joining us, Latrell Mitchell.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
Now, what's been going on as we record this interview? You've just put a couple of points on the Manly Sea Eagles in, as the coach Wayne Bennett described it, an exemplary game of football. The boys are really starting to lift. How's it feeling down there in Redfern?
Nah, it's awesome, mate, bros. It's very exciting. Honestly, there's a lot of credit, to them front rowers that we have, and people have sort of said to us early on that our front rowers weren't going to do it for us, and they've teed off and really picked up their game, and I think that's where it's been starting. And then obviously the spine, we've been working really hard together, and we're building combinations that they're going to benefit us going forward in the next couple of rounds. And I think the more pressure that gets put on us, the better we play. So I think with Wayne back out of isolation with his little slip up, but look, I'm really excited. Obviously, training's been good and it's been fun. So, and Wayne obviously just relaxes everyone when he's around. So it's been awesome.
Is there any other team though you'd rather put 56 points on than Manly?
I'd have to be the Roosters.
We got the soundbite there. Yeah. People are saying you got one of the best spines in the game right now. Did you envision the team bolting together like this when you signed?
Oh, definitely. There's obviously James Roberts, outside backs, and there's a few younger fellas that I wanted to come over to, and I've worked up a good relationship with, and obviously Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker, just 2 lads I want to connect with, and obviously Cookie playing in the dummy half role. There's a lot of, like you said, mate, there's a lot of reasons why I come over, and not only a great Indigenous club, but a great club in itself with the history, and probably I think it's the first club in NRL. So everyone in Taree bleeds red and green, and my old boy and my mum, and I thought it was sort of a homecoming call. I just done enough with the Roosters to sort of explore my options, and obviously wasn't going to get my crack at fullback there with Tedesco being the best in the world, and Yeah, look, I just wanted to challenge myself. Centre wasn't my preferred position, and fullback's always been that. And it's only sort of, why I took off and I had to, go my own way and challenge myself.
Now, mate, you come from a part of the country that is renowned for rugby league talent, not just in your family. A lot of people from that part of the world have gone on to make big names for themselves in the NRL. Can you tell us what it's like growing up, in Taree and surrounds, on the sidelines? Is rugby league what it's all about up there?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone loves it. Everyone's religion up there, sport is just obviously a way to, get something and play with your mates over the weekend. And obviously people are flat out working and whatnot. But then I think sport, something that brings the town together. And, I've always been a massive, rugby league fan. And, the old boy obviously come down at a crack and with South, and obviously didn't get opportunity, got homesick, and opportunities sort of arose for me, and me and my brothers, and I took them. And obviously I wanted to challenge myself and get out of Taree and make something of myself, because being a Koori lad there and growing up, it's not easy.
Yep.
I can't speak for the majority, but I know for myself and my family, we had it rough, and mum and dad struggled to get food on the table, but there was always food on the table. You know what I mean? So I'm really grateful for what they've given me and my brothers the opportunity to chase our dreams, and the things worked out the way it did, and I can't thank them enough. And look, I get the opportunity to look after my parents now, the way they looked after me.
Mate, how did you find the move to Sydney off the bat? Like you'd come down from Taree, just being a country boy in the big smoke. How are your first, couple months down here? How'd you find it?
Oh, so firstly, I got my opportunity. Newcastle obviously didn't, want me, and then I come down for the Bulldogs trials, and and Crusher Cleod said no, and I would never make nothing of myself, and obviously, and then look, I got a crack on the Central Coast Centurions, and they took a swing on me, and I can't thank them enough as a club, and they're not big, they're just a little feeder club, and the opportunity I got there sort of put a pathway in front of me where I could, play the best footy I could to get myself recognised. And, that year, I think 2013, I was 15 and moved away and playing Harold Matts, and got the opportunity to play Origin and play the Roosters. I think that's where it sort of kicked off when I played the Roosters, that year, and scored a couple of tries against them, sort of, picked a few brains, and, got the opportunity, got the phone call to come down the next year and, have my crack at SG Ball with the Roosters, and went a long way to, winning a comp there with them first year, and I was probably one of the youngest players there. So it was confronting moving down, because I was going to school by myself. All the boy, my older brother was obviously down with me, and we did the the little journey by ourselves, and moving into a house with a few of the older Māori boys from New Zealand. They had the same sort of family orientation as we do in Australia, and being away from them was hard, and I was the only one in the sort of the Roosters house that was going to school, so which was even harder, and the only time I'd sort of show up was sports days. So
they're already playing.
All these fellas wearing, playing footy, and I sort of was just working my way up, and it was just sort of hard because I just couldn't go to school and play footy and be away from home at the same time. It was a struggle, and I didn't know how to catch a bus, so I was sort of working out on my own, and and I was walking to school. And, it was just, that's the sort of the adversity I faced growing, coming up, and as a young fella coming in the big smoke.
I'm guessing you and your brother Shaq weren't driving dual cab Hiluxes back then either, back and forth from Taree.
Nah, well he's still trying to get his license, that fella. He's older than me. I said as soon as I turn 16, get my L's, and and obviously that was one of my first goals was getting my license. So I got them, and I was just flying around then on my red peas.
One of the big misconceptions about you, Latrell, going from the Roosters to the Bunnies, Bunnies, you're training down there on Redfern Oval in the shadow of, all the different towers, and, you're a block away from where Reynolds grew up on Pitt Street, and there's a big kind of, it's an inner city urban club, and it's a big urban Indigenous community, but, you're not from there. That's what people don't realise. You're a bit of a redneck.
Yeah, well, I'm not, exactly. I am. I drive a Land Cruiser, a Hilux, that's the things I love. I love dressing up, as a cowboy. I'm a farmer. Like I grew up, my first job was dairy farming with, my mate, and got to do that through school, on and off, just a little cashing in thing. And I said, stuff that. I'm not waking up 5 o'clock every morning just to milk a cow, I took off to Sydney then, and that's what sort of forced me away. And And I love my utes. I love driving up the coast to go home, and now that I've bought a block of my own, I love it. So. Yeah. That hat sitting there, that's me, That's me all day. So.
Yeah,
no, it's a lot easier to run beef than it is to run milk. Way easier.
Definitely.
Yeah. You can lie in bed until noon, and the cows are still going to be there.
Yeah. too much work with them dairy fellas. So
yeah.
Just stopped it.
The milk isn't worth the squeeze, as they say. So you just spoke about your move down to Sydney. What was it like being a young fella being chosen for the Australian schoolboys team to head over to England and to France? That must have been, a real change in the weather for you.
Definitely. It was eye-opener because, I've just never, ever got on a plane before then, you know what I mean? So I was sort of a bit anxious and nervous, and I obviously got the opportunity to go, overseas and play Australian schoolboys role, and I played fullback obviously, and I enjoyed myself, but I still got homesick, being away from Australia and being away from Taree, and I think a few of the boys, we've just 6 to 8 weeks, I think we're over there just playing games, and I said, I couldn't handle the cold either, so I was my head was just spinning, and I was just like, well, I just got to knuckle down here, put an effort in and win some games and get home. So that's how I sort of put my mentality towards that, and ended up getting player of the tournament over there. And, that was where I started going, and started sort of reaching new levels of where I could take my footy. And then I got back, and, Trent said, as soon as I turned 18, he said, are you ready? And I said, yeah, first round 2016. So, yeah, it was a massive eye-opener going overseas. And I think, doing all that and playing with some quality, young players, and to see them obviously, playing great as well, it's crazy because, you're there with them young, with them lads the same, and then we're all playing great now. So it's crazy because, it's only like a matter of time where you can just, flip the switch and change your mindset and be able to achieve something that you've always wanted to do. And I think, I was one of the first. So I really enjoyed myself over there. And I think, it was a great experience to sort of take my footy to where I needed it to be.
Early on, I guess, in your career, everyone, us watching rugby league and particularly the media, they saw a rising talent. And I'm sure you would have felt that a lot earlier than everyone else. People would have been tapping you on the shoulder as a teenager. But by the time you made it to grade footy, Latrell was already you're already a one-name player. Latrell, that's up there with a couple others, Not many others in that kind of realm. When did you start noticing, the media kind of hysteria around this young Koori kid from Taree? Was that first season, second season? And was there anyone there that kind of gave you kind of any tips or kind of mentored you in that way?
Well, I think it sort of started in 20s as I, started getting the TV games and, putting on a few clinics there. And
yes, you did.
And then winning some games there. And, obviously I was stoked that I'd be on TV and play, and, because then obviously my parents couldn't make it sometimes, some weekends, and, it was just good for them to sit back and watch us from home. And, for that, and then to obviously transfer into grade. And I think Mitch Orbison, I'll give him a massive rap, congratulations to him on his 300th and his retirement as well. He's had a great career, and he's a great role model for younger fellas coming through because he just knows how to talk to people. And, just being a country boy himself, from Ballina, I sort of grew a connection with him, and there's a bit of an age difference there with thing, but I can call him one of my best mates, because I got the opportunity to come through and for him to, sort of, work me into it and, give me a few tips on the way. And I think it sort of benefited. I took it with both hands, and, I can't thank the man enough. And he knows that every time you have a few beers up me, I'm a bit emotional around him. But, like I said, man, I can't thank the man enough. And, obviously the Roosters give me an opportunity, and I'm just chasing my own things now, my challenges and, the adversity I've faced going, from one team to the opposite, of Anzac Parade. So, the boys are really supportive over here now, and, I really fit in well, and I really love the way that, we're playing footy.
I'm guessing as a young fella growing up, GI, was an influence. He was for pretty much any young rookie, and, anyone who's been in the game for a couple of years would be able to say that they grew up watching GI. What was it like to land down there at Redfern Oval and have him standing there barking orders at you? What's that like for a kid who grew up watching the man?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like I said, I've been a massive Matty Bowen fan since I was a junior, and I just knew straight away I wasn't going to be that Matty Bowen player, and I grew out of that sort of that size, and and then Greg started playing fullback and centres, and I knew that was sort of how I sort of wanted to play my footy, and he was a great example of how a footy player and an instinctive footy player should be, and he dominated also, in that centre role, and whatever role he played, he dominated. So, I looked up to that, and that's why I took a chance to come over and sort of, keep playing the way I do and playing that, that bigger fullback role, not the little speedy fellas, and the way that Billy, you got your Billies and your Caleb Pongers and all them fellas, but I just think I'm a different fullback to them fellas. It's not about, I don't worry about stats. People worry about all this, running higher meters, and it does benefit. It does benefit the team when your positional players are running higher meters. But I think I can benefit my team in icing the plays, putting people over the try lines, or making the right opportunities where I can put my team in the best position possible, and that's where I think I can benefit, and I have been benefiting my teams. I think my wingers have been loving me. They can't stop shaking my hands, and it's crazy because I just come over and big Greggy's one of the coaching roles, and and big Sam Burgess and John Sutton, and got these legends that I've played against and watched growing up, but it's for them to come and have a laugh and build a connection with them was just it was crazy and amazing at the same time, because being a young fella, you looked up to these fellas playing footy.
Now, you're part of that Blues, the renaissance of the New South Wales Blues. That kind of hurts us a little bit as Queenslanders, but it's great to see.
It was a long time coming. It was
a long time coming. It's good to see Origin balance out a little bit, and a lot of people would put it down to you and those little Ferraris in the spine. What was it like playing with those fellas? I mean, because you probably wouldn't have played with Jimmy the Jet before, or Addo Carr even, and and some, of course, an incredibly talented selection that the Blues have nowadays.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, man, it was just crazy to be in a team full of strike weapons, and you got two fastest lads in the NRL, and I got one outside me, which benefited me and my footy, and and obviously James Maloney with his, he's pretty switched on with the footy, and he's got an old head on him, so he knows the game, and you got your Cam Murray through the middle, Damien Cook's running, and 5-6 years ago there wasn't them players. They went to the caliber that the players are now. I think and Queensland just had all of them players. The strike weapon that you put Queensland in now. It'd be a tussle. So I think just for how Greg and there was Hodjo, and then there was all them Corey fella and Murray fellas over that side, and it was a crazy team, man. Like Cam Smith still going now, and Cooper Cronk. Got the opportunity to play with Cooper Cronk and Billy, and play against Billy Slater, and it's hard to put a team up against that, and I felt sorry for New South Wales back in the day, to be honest.
Now the rugby league forward has changed dramatically in the last 4 or 5 years, particularly the props. I mean, we saw Papali on the weekend getting clocked at 31 kilometres an hour.
That's as fast as a greyhound.
Man, I tell you what. So anyway, I'd be ashamed. I'd have to walk off if I got ankle tapped up.
I mean, it's one thing to run away from these blokes, but to run into them, who do you kind of find the most humbling, man mountain? Who do you least like running at? I mean, I don't want to give them any ideas, but surely there's got to be one.
Probably Nelson. From Storm. He's a unit.
Yeah.
So I try and not run the ball when he's around. So I just wait for him to go off. Man, honestly, they're all crackers. They're big lads, and you just got to run hard, I guess. I've always been told run to the space, not the faces, about them big fellas, because they're good one-on-one up in front. They're good, but you get them moving laterally. Yeah. It's sort of it's a battle for me to win. So
you've done that. You've done that to Napa a few times, haven't you?
I'm just sick of it.
The hit and spin.
We're just at training, you'd want to just take your head off, so you just sort of got to run away from him, and it's always that left shoulder he's trying to line up, so you got to step to the right, so that helps you a little bit, but if he connects you, you're gone, so.
Mate, how easy is it for you to get into like the mindset of playing Origin, where kind of one week you'd be having a laugh with one of your teammates, and the next week, you could be tackling them head first into the cricket pitch, like, is there like a a method that you go through to be like, all right, this is who I'm up against this week?
Yeah, Dylan's not my mate this week.
Yeah, well, look, I've always been told since a young lad, don't respect no one on the field, and not even, if they're on your team, they're on your team. If they're not, then, just leave it, till after the game. Leave everything on the field. And, I've never respected an opponent until after, if they've had a crack. And that's how I played. It's no disrespect to anyone. It's just how I am. Like, I feel that I want the same back to me, you know what I mean? Which is how footy is, I hold no grudges after the game. Whatever happens on the field, I leave on the field. And, especially between, me and Will went, head to head every game. And I think we've played nearly 6 times in 1 year and against each other. And I just said, look, he's gonna beat me, or I'm gonna beat him. That's how I think. I'd just go, well, if they're on the other side, not on my team, then I don't see the point in respecting them until after the game, and going back to, we're not mates on the field, we're mates after, you know what I mean? That's how it is. That's how I think. I don't take anything personal. I don't put anything personal into it. Just that's how footy is played. That's how I play the game. And people find it as grubbiness and whatnot, but I think they miss the fact that it's a contact sport, and it's an aggressive sport. I don't go out half-assed, to get injured, because that's how you get injured, you know what I mean? So you got to go, flat stick and just give it your all, and if you don't, you end up with these little niggles and whatnot.
And deep down, everyone loves a bit of a grub, though. Deep down. Everyone always respects the grub at the end, don't they?
Well, Ennis, case in point.
Well, you just got to look at it as in, I'd want him in my team. Do you know what I mean? That's how people, people go, oh, he's a grub because he's on the other side. But if he's on your team, you're not saying that. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. If I got a supporter from the Bulldogs calling me a grub, if I was on the Bulldogs side, you know what I mean? He's not calling me a grub because he wants me. That's what I mean. That's how. Sure. Yeah, like you said, perfect example.
That competitive mindset was perfectly explained in The Last Dance, where everyone loves Jordan, and Chicago loves Jordan, but Jordan can be unpleasant to play against. And that's just the game.
Well, even his teammates, were sort of...
He maybe took it a bit too far.
You know what I mean? But that's just how competitive he was, and that's why he's, such a great. And obviously, everyone, 10 generations down the track are going to know who Michael Jordan is. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy the things he used to do. And I guess I'm not at that caliber of a player. It's a different sport. You know what I mean? So. The things I take into my game is different to what Jordan would think, and that's what, it's different. But it's at the end of the day, it's contact sport, and we've got to go hard and do our best.
It's been a tumultuous year. For your first year, for one, between seasons, you announced the change to the Rabbitohs, which a lot of Roosters fans would call treason and sacrilege, but you look around, a lot of people have done it. They've jumped between those two clubs. As much as those two clubs hate each other, there's a lot of people that bounce between them. You go Craig Wing, you go even Fletch,
Yeah.
A lot of people have done that. And then, of course...
Kiri.
Kiri. A lot of people.
The lad.
And then you kind of end up in, obviously, COVID strikes, and then you've got a game against the ropes. If it weren't for a lot of hardworking people at the administrative end, the game might have, had a little mark next to 2020, but they managed to get the game back on. And we'll be doing a November Origin. And then in the backdrop of all that, Latrell, you've got, the media's obviously figured out your name. Latrell Mitchell is a hot button. They hammered you a fair bit. They've shut up since. I think a lot has happened in the Australian news cycle. A lot of conversations have been had this year. A lot of those staff writers have pulled their heads in. And, of course, you've shut them up with, your performance on field as well. And we saw that on the weekend.
That was it. That wasn't even aimed at sort of the media, And that was just there was a lad in the stand just giving it to me, and I just said, "Oh, mate," you know what I mean? But then it looks different when you. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you shut up. You shut up a lot of people, which was good. But tell us, what's life like? Been like in this bubble? You've obviously got the missus and the kids. You've got that to go home to. Do you feel sorry for the single blokes playing in the NRL this year? Because it's been a pretty lonely time, I imagine.
What are they doing? What do they do if they're not training?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I do feel a bit sorry for them lads. think there's a few that are sort of starting to work out that, you know, if there's another single lad in a team, they'd probably just link up and move in together, I guess.
Yeah.
Peter Volandis has done a wonderful job in keeping it rolling, you know, and he's had a lot of pull between, you know, the government and Queensland government and be able to let us keep playing our footy and our dream and putting, you know, food on the table for our kids. So it's been hard. It has been. And, you know, just not being able to see your family or not being able to, you know, go out at least and play golf with the boys, your teammates, or go for a swim with the boys. And that's crazy, man. Like,
can't even get an Italian meal.
No. Well, menu logs. There we got a menu log.
Yeah, so I guess you haven't been out hunting because, you know, obviously what happened last time. But,
that was during the bubble too. But you know,
how did you get into your hunting? Obviously, you know, you're from out in the bush, but there's lots of people in the bush who don't like hunting.
Yep.
How did you first catch the hunting bug?
So when I was young, obviously I caught it pretty young. And my uncles and always had gun licenses and whatnot, and you know, and we went along just to provide for the town, and you know, that sort of went away. You know what I mean? There was no more people hunting. There was, you know, all my elders started passing away and dying out, and which is, you know, disappointing, and never passed on that tradition. And I guess just for me, I just wanted to keep that tradition alive for Taree, you know what I mean, and feeding my mob. And, you know, there would be times where I'd go out the mission and I'd get the boys, you know, my crew just to take a esky full, like, and I have an esky full of just roo, you know what I mean? Just take it out there, feed the mob, and that's what I used to do. You know, it was a monthly round where I used to, you know, finish a game, go up, do a round, get a few, you know, and get a bit of meat, and, you know, go out and distribute to the mob and, you know, feed them. And that's where I found sort of you know, that balance between my, you know, my footy and going away from footy, and that's where I love, you know. You know, missus and kids are really understanding about that stuff because it's tradition for me. It's men's business. You know, I'll get the opportunity to go and do it with my father, and you know, and he's taught me a lot about, you know, skinning and gutting and just the little things, you know, about to get stuff from the sea. You know, if I ever got stuck at the beach, I'd know where to go and get a feed, and you know, and that's just the life skills that I've learnt over the years and with my dad, and passing it on to us, you know, us boys. And now that I've got the girls, you know, they've got a bit of a different role to play because they're women, you know, and they've got they've got different traditions to our business. You know, we can't go into women's, you know, areas and do stuff where men can do whatever they want in their area, you know what I mean? That's just how our tradition is, and that's our culture and our culture. And we just had different ways of doing things. And I think for me, it's just hunting and providing was the best thing. That's the way I got the bug, and obviously chasing pigs was a bit of a
it's also a bit of fun.
No, well, it's almost a rite of passage, you know, as a young fella in the bush to learn how to cut the legs off a kangaroo. How old were you when you learnt not to pierce the stomach lining, because that can often, you know, clear a 5-acre packet?
Yeah, it's not the gut you're worried about, It's the piss bag in the middle. Yeah. So if you hit that, it just spoils the meat. So you sort of, you know, I'll get my uncle and then let him have it, and then he can just wash it off, and that's it. He loves that. You know, he's like, I'm not wasting this. You know, I'm taking it all, no matter what happens to it. So it's just I watched for very long time. You know, I watched my dad do it. My uncle, you know, they used to string them up on trees and just watch them do it. And the way, you know, it's just craft. You know what I mean? Not, you know, try not to nick the meat as much and spoil it. And the biggest thing was getting the piss bag out was the biggest thing. And if you got that out, you're in the clear. You know what I mean? And I watched for a very long time until I started getting, you know, a bit older, where I was like, well, I'm gonna have a crack now. And then I started learning, and you know, I can, you know, rip through one now. So it's good. It's a good skill to have.
What's your favourite bit of the roo? Is it the tail?
I sort of like, they're like inside. What are they called? The tenderloins. They're pretty good. Yeah. So they sit in there. They're probably one of the biggest bits of the roo. That's pretty good. But everyone loves tail. You know, there'd be 10 tails in one bag, and mob just go mad on it. You
just mentioned there, Latrell, about, you know, you spend a lot of time listening. Obviously, that's, you know, your culture. Wiradjuri, man, and, you know, Koori kid from up that way. You spend a lot of time listening and learning. That also, you know, translates to you in football. You know, you had a good relationship with Trent, the Roosters, and now you get the opportunity. You know, a lot of people kind of dream of this as footballers to play underneath Wayne Bennett. How has that been? And has that been everything you kind of thought it would be? Because of the blokes we've interviewed on this podcast that have worked for Wayne, they've all got to say the same thing. I don't think we've met anyone who kind of questions his techniques and his style of coaching?
Yeah, no, look, under Trent was awesome, very intelligent man with footy and knew a lot about, the outer world with the education sort of based stuff. And I learned a lot of just the little things off him, and obviously the footy. He didn't teach me how to, to play footy, just put structures into place where I could bring the best footy out of myself, you know what I mean, which was good with Trent. And then I come over with Wayne and it's just go mad, like, you know what I mean, go and play your footy, be instinctive, and it really relaxes me with the role I have to play. But then when he wants to get something drilled into me, then he'll let me know, you know what I mean. And it's good because he's just up front and old school. And I like listening to the older fellas because they've lived a longer life, obviously, and they've got a lot of experiences that I haven't experienced yet. And I love listening about it. And then when it comes around, then I can sort of take my bits and pieces out of what Wayne says. And being under him, it's been mad. I can't. It's been good. Like the way he does things is, he sits back himself and watches the team and and works people out. And I think he's more of a people person first before he's a coach. Which is good because he likes making men of good men. And that's his role, is to make better men than better footy players. You know what I mean? If you're a better man off field, then you're going to be a better footy player. And that's how I've sort of worked it out with them older fellas and the coaches. And if you haven't got good people in your team, then no one wants to play with them fellas. Yeah. So I think for Wayne, everyone wants to play with him. I think opposite teams want to play for Wayne Bennett, and they're and he's coaching us, which is amazing. And that's just the effect he has on people and on the game. And he's a legend in his own right. And honestly, I hope he coaches for the next 10 years because I don't think I'd go anywhere.
Now, obviously, it was a testing start of the year for you with the changing clubs and the COVID and the media hysteria and all that bullshit. What was it like? What were some of the things Wayne was saying to you at that time? Because it looks like, batten down the hatches and Wayne kind of has a plan.
Well, it's just back me, and that's what I want people to do. I just want them to, to back my ability because I know I do. I back myself 100%. And, for people to just sort of go away from that because I did it, club swap. Like I said, wasn't anything personal about that. The Roosters know I love them. They gave me an opportunity. But like I said, I couldn't play fullback at the Roosters because Tedesco, and that's just the way it is. It is business, if he's playing his best footy at the Roosters, then I don't see me trying to have a crack and challenge him and compete, because I'm not like that. I just want to go and play footy and enjoy myself. I'm not about the serious life. I just want to win games with the boys, have fun, and have a beer after. I mean, that's what it's been like, and that's why I think it's been crazy at the Rabbitohs with winning games and sitting there and having a beer with the boys and having a yarn. Yeah. That's what I love. It's like it makes me feel like I'm in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bush footy, bush league.
Yeah. So.
Thanks for joining us today, Latrell. It's been great to have a yarn. All the best for you guys for the rest of the season. I mean, you got Parra this weekend. We'll be releasing this Monday after the match. So all the best there. As it currently stands, has it been 5 in a row? You boys have been ripping.
Yeah, no, we'll be right, boys. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited for the next couple of rounds. So stay tuned. So be good.
Fucking oath.
Let's go. Right. Now just give a plug. What's this hat you're wearing?
That's Winmar. That's my brand. I'm starting up a cattle business. With my old boy, and that's why I bought my block. And never really had any thought in having some clothes and that, but I thought I'd make a few hats. And I know they've been going off, so I've been out of stock. Every time they come in, so just it's crazy how people just want. Yeah. Thanks for having me, boys. I appreciate it. Good to see you as well.
All the best. It's good to hear you got out of the dairy game.
Yeah. Thanks.
Footy was the best option, I guess.
See you, mate.
All right, see you, bro.
See you, boys.